We are here to interview a young, dynamic leader in the corporate world, Mr. Parth Jindal. Parth he's done his MBA from Harvard Business School in 2016. He's done his graduation in economics and political science from Brown University. Worked with a hedge fund in New York and also with the JSW Steel's Japanese partner in Japan prior to joining the $14 billion JSW group. He's currently the managing director of JSW Cement, which is a $400 million organization with 12.8 million ton capacity, and managing director of JSW Paints, a new startup. Uh, Also founder and director of JSW Sports, that owns and manages Bengaluru FC, part of the league, football league, and Haryana Steelers, and is chairman and co-owner of the Delhi Capitals. He's also the founder of Inspire Institute of Sports. So you can see a lot of sports there. So welcome to the interview, Mr. Parth Jindal.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you.
so being young and being dynamic in this world, which is now turning upside down with this pandemic, is quite a challenge. And I'm going to get straight into your business first, and we'll come to this later. So you've taken on this mantle of making cement happen in a big way. You want JSW Cement to be top of the pecking order. But from 14 million tons to 20 million tons, and then onwards to 35 by 2025, you know most of the companies have been growing inorganically. So do you believe so much value is there to create by consolidating these companies?
No, I think first of all, thank you very much for having me on this show, and thank you very much for interviewing me. It's a very tough time for business and very tough time for the country. But having said that, I think we are very hopeful that things will open up slowly in the times to come, and we're already seeing slow traction in especially in rural India when it comes to demand for our products. So a lot of the green districts and amber districts have slowly started opening up. Now, when it comes to JSW Cement, today we are a 14 million ton company. And like you said, our ambition is to become a 25 million ton company over the next 3 years, and then double that and go to 50 million tons by 2025. Now, given the COVID and what has happened, I think there will be some delay to these plans because expansion and investment by private sector in general will be coming down substantially because of this disruption in the economy. When it comes to the consolidation that you mentioned, a lot of consolidation over the last 3 years has happened in the cement industry. You had Nirma who bought Lafarge's assets. You had Ultratech buying Binani's assets, and you had through the IBC process Dalmia Cement buying both Kalyanpur Cement and Murli Cement. So a lot of the big assets that were available have already been taken by one of the larger cement groups. There are a handful of assets now which I could probably name, but I won't name that are still available and are going to be coming up for either a bilateral sale or an acquisition or go into IBC very shortly. So those assets are obviously interesting. When it comes to our strategy of JSW Cement, one has to actually go into the history of this company a little bit. We were started out, very clearly to backward integrate or to forward integrate, as you may call it, to use the waste products that come out of both the power plants of JSW Energy and the steel plants of JSW Steel. So both fly ash and slag, which are the main raw materials if you're making, other than limestone, if you're making PPC cement or PSC cement, Portland slag cement or Portland pozzolana cement, both have between 30 to 60% of fly ash or slag. So the initial thought process of JSW Cement was to use the raw material advantage that we would have by sourcing these raw materials in house and by co-locating in factories which co-locating with steel or power factories, power plants. So, uh, as of now, our strategy has been tied to the growth of either JSW Steel or JSW Energy. So, as JSW Steel keeps expanding its blast furnace capacity and more slag becomes available, our strategy has been to use this slag, and expand our capacity. So that's why today we are 14 million tons. 8 million tons out of this is in the south, where we get our raw material from the Vijayanagar steel plant, which is a 12 million ton steel plant today. In the west, we are currently 2.5 million tons capacity in cement. We get our raw materials from the Dolvi steel plant of JSW Steel. And in the east, we are currently 3.6 million tons. Here we get our raw materials from Tata Steel or from Jindal Steel and Power or from Jindal Stainless. So our strategy has been very much revolved around steel plants. Now going forward, we are making a shift in our strategy. We have been acquiring limestone mines in the auction, in the auctions that have been conducted by Government of India and the respective state governments. So we have now been successful in acquiring a very large limestone deposit in Rajasthan in the Nagaur district. We have also acquired a limestone block in Kutch in Gujarat, and we have acquired a limestone block in Chhattisgarh, near the Monet Ispat steel plant of JSW Steel. So going forward, it's a mix of a strategy. We will be, growing, putting up grinding units, also expanding our grinding unit capacity, but we're also going to be putting up clinkerizing units to take our capacity beyond 25 million tons. The reason we are not going for acquisition at the moment is, one is that our balance sheet is relatively levered because we have grown from 6 million tons to 14 million tons in the span of 3 years. So we have taken a lot of leverage in order to do that. So the capacity of ours to actually take on a very big acquisition is limited, unless the group supports. But I think group has all very ambitious plans in steel, so a lot of the capital is going there. And second, I think it's also a factor of my age, and time being on my side. So I'm not in any real hurry to grow. I want to grow organically as much as possible, and then go in for an IPO, and then post the IPO use the funds to actually build a war chest and look at potential acquisition opportunities. I know a lot of the big ones have already gone, so we'll have to see what's available at that time.
Two things here, Parth, which appear. One is that given the COVID kind of a crisis, more assets may become available, obviously, which were not on the table yet. Secondly, your raw material costs have also gone for a different kind of a dive, your coal costs, etc. So your model itself on organic growth itself might also be at a better position to create some more better reserves than the former model. So do you think these two things make sense also given your strategy now?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot of stress in the system. A lot of companies that were just about surviving, this may have thrown them over the edge, and they might actually be looking for a exit, and might be looking even for a merger. We are open to both options, because given our relative size, a merger could be a very good opportunity, where rather than a cash transaction, it is a share transaction, and we combine two entities and create a larger cement company. So we have just started thinking on those lines, but there is some interest by some of the other companies also who are looking at this as an opportunity. On the raw material side, you're absolutely right. Coal prices and pet coke prices, which are big raw materials for cement, both because of the sharp drop in oil prices globally, both the coal, pet coke, as well as diesel prices are likely to come down drastically and have already started coming down. So that will have a very big impact on power and fuel, and have a very big impact on your logistics cost. So as long as demand comes back, which, because right now the challenge is that the per ton margin is not a real problem. Per ton margin is good, is actually better than what it was pre-COVID, but it is your fixed cost which is weighing everything down because of the sheer lack of volume that is there. So April, everyone is struggling to operate because there's a lot of fear in the system of truck drivers, migrant labor, as well as villagers. Villagers are not allowing people to leave their villages and come to the factories to actually operate. But we're hoping that May we come to at least 30 to 40% of capacity utilization of pre-COVID, and June we're hoping to reach at least 50%, and then things hopefully should improve. But to answer your question, we are always looking at opportunities. But like I said, the ability for JSW Cement to do a cash transaction right now is quite limited. But a merger or a share swap, those kind of deals would be very interesting to look at right now.
So just because you mentioned about the low capacity utilization right now, I would like to just extend that question a bit. That considering that the drivers for cement demand, essentially housing and real estate, followed with being the major driver, and then you have infrastructure as the probably 20-25%. I think, don't you think that infrastructure will be the key driver given the next 6 months, 8 months, maybe until this pandemic sort of pans out?
No, absolutely. I think one of the things that we are already seeing is that the pandemic is going to have a much larger impact on the metros. Whether it's in Mumbai or any of the major cities, Bangalore, Delhi, Hyderabad, uh, COVID is going to have a larger impact there. So whether it is urban housing or real estate, commercial real estate, I think these sectors are in for a very long downturn in terms of demand, in terms of new capacity coming up. But what we are noticing is that rural India, rural housing, whether it's Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, or the Pradhan Mantri, the other Prime Minister scheme that is there for rural housing, there, and road projects, highway projects, and also the metro projects in the cities. I think we are hoping that this will give the demand impetus that is required. So already we are noticing that government is trying to push these projects forward. They've already allowed construction activities for government projects and government sites to commence, whether it's the coastal road or the metro or even the Samruddhi corridor or any of these major projects. Even our plants in Karnataka are starting to see some orders from government projects. So I think the demand will come from two areas. One is government spending, and two is the rural economy, which has not been as badly hit by COVID and has benefited from a bumper agricultural crop. They had a very good crop last year in September, October, and again I've been told that this year the produce has been exceptional. So we are all hoping that these areas get the capacity utilization to at least 60 to 70% of pre-COVID.
Coming to paints, which is your new startup, that market is quite different. Although it is more decorative paints, which is a larger chunk of the whole market segment, and B2C as against B2B business, which is part of the steel business. So how do you see the JSW brand being leveraged there, where we have a very, very big dominant player there for years together? How do you see
Yeah.
JSW paints drive that strategy?
I think for us, JSW Paints is our first pure B2C venture when it comes to the group. Although both steel and cement have tenets of consumer facing, especially your retail sales in cement and your retail sales in steel. But paints is an altogether different game where the end consumer has a much larger say in the buying pattern or the buying decision of the company, of which company to choose. We at JSW, we were been thinking for many years as to which is the next vertical the group should enter. How should we diversify, our group, because we are very linked to the Indian economy, whether it's steel, whether it's cement, whether it's power, whether it's infra. We were always linked to the India's GDP growth. If India grows, all these businesses do extremely well. If India has a tough time, then these businesses go through a downturn, and very, very cyclical businesses. Whereas when you look at paints, it's relatively less cyclical. The way the industry dynamics has panned out is that you have the top four players commanding more than 80% of market share, with one extremely dominant player in Asian paints. So it was very interesting always to look at that. And then when we thought that you need TMT to build a home, you need cement to build a home, and you need to paint a home. So we thought that as a group, as a company, JSW can JSW own the home in terms of in the consumer's mind. So when a consumer thinks that I have to build a home, or when an architect says that I have to build a home, can JSW provide all the basic raw materials that are required to produce a high quality home? So that's how the idea of paint actually started. When we looked at the supply chain synergies, there were a lot of synergies on the supply chain side, because we had all the godowns already in place, which had either cement or steel, in all the major cities of the country. We had all the transportation and all figured out very clearly from the plants. So it was mainly about getting the product strategy correct and getting the go-to market strategy correct, and building a pull in the consumer's mind. Because the dealers were they knew about JSW. They were very happy that JSW was entering paints, because no large Indian group has entered paints in a long time. So everyone was excited. So when we did our research, we found out that a lot of dealers were open to taking upon the dealership of JSW paints, subject to the product quality being correct. So we've launched now we launched in August of 2019 in the south predominantly, and as of March we have about 750 retailers on board, and our target was to get to 1,000 retailers by the end of March, but that got pushed out because of COVID. But the response has been very positive. We have been able to grow our sales month. We're actually doubling sales every month in JSW Paints on the decorative side. So this year, FY21 is obviously going to be a big year for JSW Paints. We're targeting a turnover of about 500 crores from the decorative side of things. And then we have a industrial paints division as well, which supplies the coil coatings required for steel, for color coated steel, which goes into the white goods segment and the roofing segment. So that division is doing extremely well. last year we did a turnover of about 350 crores in that division. This year we are targeting to do about 600 crores in that division, which would cater to about 90% of JSW Steel's requirement. So overall this year we're targeting about 1100 crores of revenue in paints. Now due to COVID, we are recasting some certain numbers, but we also feel that the whole health and hygiene element of society will get a boost because of COVID. So a lot of people who are worried about health and hygiene and sanitation are going to want to paint their homes to keep it clean. The other thing going in advantage for paint is the sheer drop in oil prices. So that will obviously give a higher margin to the companies. But like I said, the biggest problem is most of the paint is consumed in urban India, and I think that is going to and it also depends on migrant labor. So these two things are not going in its favor, but we are hopeful that things will kickstart at least in May.
JSW Paints will be part of JSW Steel, or is it completely independent?
No, it's private. It's a private company, promoter owned company, not linked to any of the listed entities of JSW.
Okay, coming to COVID, how have your operations now? Have you resumed operations in some of your plants, and what is the position?
So when it comes to JSW Steel, all our steel plants have all the blast furnaces which we had taken down. We have restarted all of our blast furnaces. We have 7 blast furnaces across the country, not including Bhushan, which we are likely to which is likely to become part of JSW. Depending on the Supreme Court's decision. So not including Bhushan, all 7 blast furnaces which we had taken down have restarted operations. Demand is a real challenge when it comes to steel. So we are currently exporting about 80% of all our products. And you won't believe it, we are exporting to China.
Wow.
So things have really turned around. There's a real turn because China is the only country which has started back up. Some of their mini steel plants are finding it difficult to restart. So there is a little bit of a supply demand issue there. So we are exporting to China. About half of our exports is going to China at the moment. When it comes to cement, all our cement plants, barring the cement plant we have in Andhra Pradesh in Kurnool, which has become a hotspot at the moment. Barring that cement plant, all our cement plants have started operations. Even our Fujairah plant in UAE is operating at the moment. We are running at around 30% capacity utilization at the moment. Power plants are running, but demand for power is down. So we run only what is required, and whatever demand we get, that is the amount we run. And the ports were always running. The maritime JSW infra ports were always running. So paint plants, the industrial unit in Maharashtra has just got approval last week to restart operation. So we have restarted that. The decorative unit in Vijayanagar so far does not have approvals. So we have approvals only to dispatch the material that we had already prepared. So only finished goods dispatches are happening. We're likely to get permission on the 3rd of May for the decorative unit.
So we know that you all have donated to the PM Relief Fund, and you have also converted a hospital ward at Bellary for COVID. So how has JSW Group been reaching out to its workers, dealers, supply chain in this moment of this whole outbreak?
One of the things that we have done is that all the migrant labor that is working in our factories and in our surrounding communities, we are providing them with 3 meals a day. So we are touching about 30,000 people a day, providing them with 3 meals a day. Secondly, like you said, we have converted our our hospital wing in Bellary and handed it over to the Bellary district commissioner for COVID. To our delight, it has never been used, and the district collector has actually handed it back to us, saying that Bellary is under control, so they don't require it at the moment. We've done the same thing in Dolvi. We've converted. We had a new hospital which was coming up in Dolvi, so we converted that to a COVID hospital and handed it over to the DC, and they are utilizing it. We've also handed over PP&E to all our DIZs across JSW Group, including all our plants, and we are now in our JSW Paints industrial line in Vasan. We are commencing operations to make sanitizers. So we have converted that unit to make sanitizer, and partly, so that will commence this week. And also in Vijayanagar, in our machine shop, we have just started manufacturing ventilators. So we are handing that over also to the government. So by way of feeding the people through the migrant labor, as well as through Akshay Patra, we are donating meals to the needy. And then obviously the donation, we donated 100 crores from our foundation to PM Cares, and each employee donated a minimum of 1 day's salary to PM Cares as well, which amounted to roughly about 8 crore rupees. So that has been the contribution so far.
Tell me, you were saying that you exported to China. And do you think India, I mean, I've been, in one of my videos, I've said that this is a great opportunity for India, because even China vacates some notches of its leadership and dominance in certain products. India can actually take it. What do you think?
No, I think it's a massive opportunity. I think the world is extremely upset with China and the way in which they dealt with this with COVID, and a lot of countries and a lot of companies are boycotting China. Now we have to wait and see whether it's just a heat of the moment kind of a boycott, or whether this boycott lasts, and whether the capitalism which everyone is so used to comes back, wherever is the cheapest source of high quality product, you move to that country. But at the same time, we were doing an exercise. I was doing an exercise at JSW Cement, because I was also very, very upset with China and the way things have happened. So I made a list with my commercial team that, what all are we buying from China? And it is actually very baffling, when you think that a simple conveyor belt is coming from China. Simple machines, simple transformers, simple things are coming from China, and you kind of think as to why India is not producing these things. Why are we not sourcing this from India? And I reached out to a lot of the companies who are making these items and requested them to supply to us, and they all were very, very excited, very open. Yes, it could be 4 to 5% more expensive to start with, but I think the industry and all of us have to actually develop the supply chain in India, and develop the dependencies here. One is the Indian companies need to make in India and buy from India. That is the first step. Second step is, once the Indian companies start buying from India and making in India, then we can use that expertise that has been built up to export to the world. So right now, even JSW Steel, even JSW Cement, we are buying so many things from China, which we have now taken a study in the group, that how do we develop Indian vendors? If they don't exist, can we invest in an entrepreneur and ask the entrepreneur to build the capacity in India? So I think there's a huge opportunity in that respect, where India itself needs to depend more on Indian companies. And once we build that expertise, because we're not a small economy, we're $3 trillion economy. If we can do this, then I'm sure a lot of world markets will open up for the country. I'll give you very small example. In our US plant in Ohio, we are changing our electric arc furnace, and our electric arc furnace has a shell. Now this shell is a very simple shell to make. It's nothing great. Our own machine shop in Vijayanagar is capable, and there are so many. The Kirloskars have a machine shop. Bhilai Engineering, there's a workshop open over there, and the company was that we have given to make this shell for us is Tenova, which is an Italian company. Now their workshop is in China. So as soon as COVID happened, they announced that this project is going to get delayed, and the Chinese workshop is not operating. So we requested them and said that, can you move it to India? Can you move it to either our own, to JSW Steel's workshop in Vijayanagar, or to any other workshop of your of your choice? And it took them 2 months, but finally the order has gone to the Bhilai workshop in Bhilai Engineering workshop, and now the shell for the US for JSW Steel is coming from India. So the capability is there, but the world has gotten so used to China and so used to the efficiency of China that India has to develop that in order to become a real viable option for the world.
Yeah, you rightly say. I think we need to develop our supply chain and probably encourage them, even if it means a short-term bearing of a higher cost. One last question. Your passion for sports, your dad's passion for sports is well known. But given this situation, how do you see sports coming back? Are they going to be sort of matches without audiences, or how's it going to?
No, so I think right now we would have all been in the thick of the IPL. If this was if COVID had not happened, I think sports is a real going to be a real challenge. For the foreseeable future till a vaccine is not found, and till this is not resolved. I think till then the world is staring at sports without fans, sports without spectators. And I think, there's already been announcements that the Bundesliga is coming back up without fans. Premier League is looking at restarting in June without fans. So I think the same will happen with cricket to start with. And once, the vaccine is found, then only we can expect fans to come back. Commercially, or if you look at it, about 2/3 of any sports franchise's revenue comes from the TV and comes from broadcasting rights, whether it's digital or TV. So I think that would be enough to keep the wheels turning, and that would be enough to financially make it a viable proposition. Because right now everyone is hungry for content. We're all watching Netflix and Amazon Prime and all these things. Much more than normal. So live TV would be a real treat for everybody. So I think broadcasters are very keen on some sort of live sport coming back, even without fans. But fans obviously create the energy and the atmosphere. Even when you watch on TV, you love to see the reaction of the fans. So it will be very weird to imagine sport without fans, but I think that is the reality, at least for the next I hope 6 months, but I think 12 months.
So do you think these 12 months would have altered the way we live in everything that we do? I mean, people are talking about work from home becoming the new norm. So will the new norm actually entail things which will actually, if you do some crystal ball glazing, what do you see?
Very tough to say, but even though I'm from the young generation, or I'm a millennial, I'm still a guy who likes to read a physical newspaper, rather than reading the newspaper on my iPad. So for me, I can't imagine working from home. I can't imagine not going to office and not having physical interaction with people. But having said that, a lot of the tech companies, a lot of the startups are already looking at working from home. So it does not bode well for commercial real estate, because that would mean that commercial real estate prices and demand would come down. I think if when the vaccine is found and when there's enough production for everyone to get a dose of it, I think after that people will be kind of desperate for physical interaction and going to offices, going to restaurants, going to bars, etc. So, but I do think for the till then, this is the new reality, and we all have to figure out a way of keeping sane while working from home, because it's not easy sometimes.
Parth, it's been wonderful to talk to you. Stay safe and all the best. We'll talk to you
Thank
soon
you so
again.
much.